Good evening, it's just Jill Lindholm, your friendly alcohol and drug counselor. Today is February 6th. It's about 11:45 in the evening, so good evening. Just doing some thinking today and some research and stuff, and I thought I would share with you in a blog today. This will be blog number 36, and what I will call it is How Mindfulness Helps with Addiction Recovery. I want to share a little bit of research with you, and then I'll talk as we go through. Two main causes of relapse are personal triggers and stress. And while it may be somewhat easy for a recovering addict to avoid going to bars or hanging out with people that they used with before getting sober, it's not nearly as easy to avoid stress. Stressors, which are events or emotions that cause stress, are everywhere around us. Every single person on the face of this planet has to deal with daily uncertainties. You could have people that have illnesses, aging, deaths in the family of friends, job security, and many other stressors, including traffic jams and missing the bus on a regular basis. We live in a world where we are constantly connected to news that focuses on trauma and upset, and feel the need to be constantly moving and constantly available for your cell phone, text messages, emails. We are a society nowadays that just no longer knows how to relax. When a person experiences one of these stressful situations, the body releases hormones, as it would to respond to danger. When these stressors are not dealt with properly, the body will continue to release these hormones, harming the body in various ways over time. Prolonged stress can cause nausea, increased heart rate, problems with the digestive system, and of course addiction or relapse. So look out for those symptoms in case you're wondering. Stress and drug addiction, the psychology of it. It is far easier to understand the psychology behind stress-related drug abuse than it is to understand the neurology. So that's where I'm going to start with you, basically. Because most drugs cause some type of escape from reality, some feeling of euphoria. People with chronic stress often turn to drugs or alcohol when they can no longer deal with their daily stressors. Whether it be a beer after a long day of work, or rewarding yourself for a long week with a bottle of wine, the more the brain feels a clear connection between reward and alcohol or drug use, the more likely the brain is to create a psychological dependence on the substance. Now, listen to that carefully again. Once again, the more the brain feels a clear connection between a reward, connects with the reward system in the brain, and the alcohol that you drink or the drug that you use, the more likely the brain is to create a psychological dependence on that substance. And the further along the psychological dependence is, the further the neurological dependence becomes. So once again, it becomes psychological first, and then it goes into neurology. And even when an addict has completed a successful rehabilitation program, of severe stress in recovery can and will cause major craving patterns in the brain, and the addict will have a very hard time saying no to using again. So now, stress and drug addiction, when you look at neurology or the brain, how that responds, since we just got done talking about psychology of it, we're going to look at the actual hardwiring of the brain, if you want to look at it that way. In response to a stressor, the human brain releases hormones, chemicals, and neurotransmitters. They nickname these chemicals as messengers, and we have technical scientific terms, of course, for them, but we'll call them CRFs, which is short for the word that it actually is. Chlorotrophin release factor, which is released, which triggers the ACTH, which is the adrenocorticotrophin, which stimulates the adrenal glands. That's what you need to know. And cortisol is produced. So when cortisol is produced, it's present in the bloodstream. It tells the brain that the CRFs and the ACTH do not need to be produced any longer, unless it is particularly a serious stressor. They did some studies at Rockefeller University involving stopping the production of cortisol in both drug users and non-drug users, and each person was given a pill that stopped the production of cortisol. In those who were not using drugs, the lack of cortisol production caused high levels of ACTH. In those who had recently used heroin, ACTH increased only slightly. When researchers tested a group of people who were in withdrawal from opiates, the ACTH levels doubled that of the non-using group, showing that the brain of a drug addict in recovery is much more sensitive to stress, increasing the addict's susceptibility to relapse during stressful situations, especially within the first couple of years in recovery. So learn to cope with stress to avoid relapse is the basic message here. Because there's no way to avoid stress forever, a recovering addict needs to learn how to lower their sensitivity to stress. Mindful meditation is a good example and has been used to relieve stress for hundreds of years. And now more and more studies are scientifically proving that practicing mindfulness meditation, in addition to recovery, actually helps prevent relapse. So I want you to think about that for a moment. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs, approximately 200 million people around the world are drug or alcohol users. Of those, millions of them are addicted to different drugs and alcohol, and the lucky ones find their way into treatment programs. Cognitive behavioral therapy, known as CBT, has proven very successful in addiction treatment and is a modern evidence-based psychology. The main focus of CBT is to teach addicts strategies and techniques that will help them think rationally and positively. And practicing mindfulness in conjunction with CBT almost seems like a very natural progression. In short, mindfulness is the practice of cultivating non-judgmental awareness in day-to-day life. It means being fully aware of what's happening in the present moment, without filters or judgment. By practicing mindfulness meditation, you can teach your brain to consciously accept the stressors that you experience in day-to-day life and deal with them in a calm and positive way instead of letting them ruffle your feathers. Being in the present moment with mindfulness, if you pay attention to what your mind is doing when you are sitting still, washing the dishes, or even going for a walk, you will notice that the mind is incredibly noisy. Whether thinking about what might happen in the future or rehashing things that have already happened in the past, the mind rarely sits still. However, it is only the present moment in which anybody truly lives. Tomorrow is not here yet, and yesterday already happened. The only moment you truly have is now. Mindfulness is a practice in which we can learn to quiet the mind by focusing on the activity at the moment in which we are living, be it doing those dishes or sitting still. One sample exercise to practice is mindful eating. For example, take a grape, a piece of fruit, or even a piece of chocolate bar and hold it in your hand. Explore it with all 5 of your senses. Look it over, smell it, and use your fingers to really feel the texture of the fruit. Then place it in your mouth. Notice how it feels on your tongue, the saliva building in your mouth, the way that it tastes. Notice the moment that you bite into it. How does it feel? What new flavors can you taste? This is a simple exercise, I know, but it's the basis of mindfulness, and it's a tangible way of doing it. Being completely focused on the present moment by using the fruit or by using the candy to practice, and focusing on the tastes and flavors, and quieting all other thoughts in your head. Using mindfulness to relieve stress. In the same way that you can quiet your thoughts while eating, you can quiet your reactive thoughts when you encounter a certain stressor. When someone yells at you, cancels plans at the last minute, or disappoints you in some manner, most people will automatically react. Perhaps you're getting annoyed while waiting in line at the bank or at the post office. Maybe somebody might have cut you off on the road in traffic. You had to swerve to avoid hitting them, or anything else. These are all stressors that are easy to encounter in day-to-day life situations. And while the stress may seem small, they have significant physical effects on your body. You'll feel muscle tension, you might get headaches, might have trouble sleeping with insomnia, stomach upset, skin conditions, are short-term effects of stress. Long-term effects include heart disease and dementia, among others. I will continue this in part 2 shortly. Chill out.